Hi, my name is Yvonne Weekes, currently living in Barbados, British born of Montserratian parents. This year marks the 25th anniversary since the volcano erupted in Montserrat, and I'll be reading from my book Volcano, which was published by People Tree Press in 2006. In all the years growing and living on the island of Montserrat, I never once remember thinking about her. I don't remember what she looked like. I don't even remember noticing her. She was simply there. I only know that she came into my consciousness when she first blew that hot July in 1995. Before that day, she was kind of never there for me. This then is the beginning of time. But not so for the villagers who live in the south and east. For years they live and work on her. They recognize her every curve and bend. They walk through her lush crevices and fertile gullies. They smell her dark fragrances. They cross her deep ravines to plant their food and tie their animals. They recall her secrets as told to them by their grandparents. One day they look up at her and they know something is wrong. They know even before the scientists who come to explore and examine her. They feel her intermittent shaking that whole year. They hear her loud rumbling and persistent cries. These sounds are new to them. When one afternoon she finally coughs up her belly with hot steam and deadly gases, it is no surprise to them. When I first hear the news about the volcano, I'm not at home. On the flight home, I think that's a strange word. Home. Actually, I was born in a cold, wintry London, and the first time I hear the word Montserrat is when my parents decide to return home. 1967. I go to school and I tell my white English teacher that I'm leaving to go to Montserrat. And in front of the sea of children she says, "There is no such place," and triumphantly brings out a globe to prove it. Amidst the laughter and the tears welling in my throat, I see indeed there is no such place. Despite this teacher, my family and I arrive in Montserrat, where the sun rises above breathtaking mountains. I know a lot of people have never heard of Montserrat. Once, I saw a tourist wearing a t-shirt in Montserrat which said, "Where the hell is Montserrat?" I even think about writing a book called "Where the Hell is Montserrat?" But then I figure since so few people have heard of Montserrat, why would they even look at a book with that title? So you have to know something about this place that I call home. Montserrat has always been the world's best kept secret. At one point in our history, George Martin discovers her. We're always being discovered and then forgotten. He builds a recording studio, Air Studios, and many famous artists come by to record their music. Nobody notices them. They all bring their big, burly bodyguards and they promptly send them back. In Montserrat, I can leave my house open and come back to find everything just as I left it. Montserrat is what you might call a slow, meandering island where everybody lives and everyone is related, like a royal family. So I want to read the second section that I'm going to read, and this is after the volcano has blown, and it's the day when my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, is traveling to go to England where the rest of the family is. This day, my grandmother is going to England. I get ready early in the morning to drive to the north of the island to pick her up and to be organized for traveling. We really think it's the best thing for my grandmother. But as my son gives his great-grandmother a farewell hug and they leave, my grandmother in a wheelchair, all my grandmother's words seem to turn in the wheels of that chair and echo in my head. At the point where they go through the door of departure, my grandmother and my cousin who's traveling with her, I remember shelling peas with her on the steps. I remember that piece of pumpkin and the breadfruit and the few green bananas that she would save for me in case I came to visit. I remember all the meals she made me carry to dark women in faded flowered dresses who had no teeth. I remember the walking stick she hit me with one day. I remember how she called me at 4 o'clock in the morning to tell me to listen to some radio program about spiritual healing. I remember the story she told me about her mother and father, about the old house where she was born, and about her older sister now dead, and the prayer she taught my son, and her childhood stories in which she was forced to work like a mule. How when my mother was born, she was a beautiful golden baby, and how she later turned out to be quite lazy. I remember the story she told me about why everyone called her Honey. I remember how she told me that she could never reach heaven on account of Hitler, the name she called her husband. In that moment, the world is still as she goes through the departure lounge. This is all these stories which will purify my soul. My son and I look up at the mountain. She's still there, disturbing the leaves, the trees, the flowers, the sea, the animals, and everyone. But she cannot take my grandmother's stories away. And the final section that I want to read for you is an experience where the volcano actually erupts, and my son and I are caught on the road in our car. And so we drive into a friend's gateway, and we run straight into the bedroom to the back of the house. Suddenly there is a darkness like the end of the earth. There is a darkness while the world seems to be crashing. And even though there are 8 of us in this room, there is this total solitude, and the world is wailing this very loud lament. It crashes into my senses. The electricity goes off. More darkness. Radio Montserrat goes dead. The phone is dead. All the children are screaming. Sweat is pouring off me. There's thunder and lightning. The ash is seeping everywhere. My girlfriend Patsy is trying to close all the windows. But the mountain, it manages to pour her dark mud over us. The mountain cracks, crack, crash. She mocks. Crack, crash. She scolds. Crack, crash. She shrieks. I remain still. There is such a total darkness. You can't even see the eyes or teeth of anyone sitting next to you. I don't know how long this lasts, but I hold my eyes firmly ahead. I cannot risk moving because I'm afraid the mountain will get angrier. And as the black clouds carry the sun away into the stillness, into the mud, is the light peeping through, which will return my muddy island to its old time? Or is this the beginning of a new time? Is this end? Now the mud comes down. I cannot see where my bright yellow car is parked. More mud comes down. This darkness. And in this darkness, I see all my life's bricks being washed away. Later, my son, age 11, describes this experience as a supernatural darkness. Thank you for being with me, and I hope you enjoy the reading.